Hi, my name is Daniel Foley Carter, and I'm very quickly going to show you Google Search Console against SEO Stack. So fundamentally, we have the same sort of interface here. And what I'm just going to do very quickly is just show you some of the differences, some of the functionality differences, and explain a little bit about why things are the way they are. So first of all, anyone that will know that there are lots of limitations in GSC. So if we start from top to bottom, so Search Console, the furthest that you can go back is 16 months. So if you are using GSC data, the furthest that you can go back in the interface is to the 23rd of November as of today. And in GSC and in SEO Stack, we too can go back to the last 16 months. However, you may notice this thing here called first data point. And basically what happens is that from the day that you add a website to SEO Stack, we get the last 16 months of data. But then every day moving forwards, we append a day of data on top. So the first data point was basically the date that the earliest data point went back to. So if we now click here, you will see a marked difference. So we can see all the way back to the 1st of February 2023, and in GSC we can only see back to November. Now each year, each month, each year that goes by, this data will be retained. So eventually, as the years go by, you'll be able to look at 3 years, 5 years, up to 10 years of GSC data. Now, the reason that it's done this way is because we are trying to preserve the interface so that you can see historic data, but you don't have to do it outside of Search Console. So some people might use something like BigQuery with Looker Studio to look at older data. But what we've done is we've basically kept it so that the whole interface is uniform and that you're not having to go to another tool to look at historic data. So the next thing is the filtering. So if we are filtering in Google Search Console, let's say we want anything with the word Windows in it, we can only apply a single filter for a query at the time. So if we now do the same thing here, and then what we can do is if we go to GSC and try to add another filter, we can't. Whereas in SEO Stack, we can. So if we now say, I don't know, we want to add in the words cheap, and fundamentally what this will do is it will allow us to layer up as many filters as we want, but we can't do that in Google Search Console. Now, the other benefit to doing this is that it allows you to layer up as many filters as you like. So, for example, let's say we really want to drill down on our queries. The benefit here is that we can do contains and not contains at the same time. In Search Console, you can't do that. You can either do containing, not containing, exact query, or regex. But really, it's really inflexible. Okay. So let's say I don't want anything with garage in either. So we can exclude that from the filtering. And fundamentally, we can filter as far as we like with as many different layered filtering options as we like. And then what we can do, which you can't do in Search Console, is we can save it. So we could create a group. So let's say window queries. And then inside we can have we can create another subfolder, or we can create a filter. So we can say window queries excluding cheap. And then that filter is saved. So if at any point we want to revisit that, we can just save it here. And we might also want to do page level filtering at the same time. So let's say we don't want anything with what or how in it. So we can layer up our filtering. And then we can do what. What you can also do is you can select bulk. So you can create a whole list of things all in one go as part of filtering. So I could do how, why, click those, and it will bulk filter. So you can see here, fundamentally, we can basically create as many custom filters as we like, and we can save them. And again, it allows us to layer up as many filters as we like. So this functionality is really powerful. You know, if you want to build like a whole custom filter library for pages, for blogs, for products, whatever you want to do, you can do it. So you can see here are some old filters that I set up. So if you click on them, it will automatically apply them. Okay. So that's the filter. And we also have a selection of pre-filters. So you can click on informational queries, for example. And it will apply, it will also create a regex for you as well. So we have loads of these powerful custom filters. So the next thing is the export options. So when you do an export, you can actually export all of the data. So in this case, we can export 40,337 queries. Obviously, if we export in Google, we can only export the top 1,000 queries or top 1,000 pages. So again, the export here is significantly more powerful, and you can select what you have in your export. Do you want page data? Do you want country data? And so forth. You can also export to CSV and PDF. You can't export to PDF in Google Search Console. And you can see here, obviously the filter means that there isn't 1,000 rows, but you're limited to 1,000 rows in any export. Now, moving down past the filters, we obviously have the same interaction things as GSC does. Okay, but this is where things change. So here you are limited to a day view. We also have a day view, but we have the ability to switch to a month view. So we can see here clicks by month as opposed to day. The next thing that we can do is if you are working on your site, you can't annotate anything in Google Search Console. And whilst I am aware that there are Google Chrome extensions that allow you to annotate over the data, generally they don't allow you to save those annotations. SEO Stack does, and SEO Stack also has a powerful task management and annotation system that uses AI. So what you can do is you can say to SEO Stack on the website, find a URL that you've been doing some work on, and then you can say what it is that you did, when you did it, who did it, and then you can fundamentally select the things that you do. You can put these in if you like, and you can select to email me if there are significant changes after the annotation date. You can click add annotation, and then if you select this slider here, it will show you the annotation. Now, there are pre-existing annotations here, but if you click on it, you can see, again, switching between a day and a month view, you can see the annotation that we just logged. So you can see your annotations over time. And what you can also do is you can filter down to the type of annotations. So if you've been doing link building or internal links, so if we say, I think most of the changes on here are content. So as you select these, you can actually view what was done on what date, whereas you can't do that in Search Console. The next thing as well is that you can actually full screen the data. You can zoom in and out on data, and you can obviously go back. So you can interact with the data. You can scroll in and out. You can't do that here. The next thing is that if we go to queries, now if we remove all of the filtering across GSC and on SEO Stack, you will see here that you are limited to 1,000 rows of data. And if we just remove all of our filtering here, you can see 1,000 rows of data in GSC, and in SEO Stack, we can access all 40,000 rows of data. So this takes away all of the limitations. You can access every single keyword, every bit of data directly from in here. So you can see that there are 4,000 pages of table row data, and you can obviously change how many appear per row like you can with GSC. Now, the next thing that we can do as well is that we can apply filters. So if we want anything from 1 click to 10 clicks, we can filter. We can apply filters on impressions, CTR, average position. Now, the next thing is that we can actually see the date, the last click date where something generated traffic. And the benefit here is that we can find queries or pages that haven't generated clicks in some time. So typically, the biggest problem is that when you're looking at this data and you can see these numbers, that's great. But, when are these keywords still generating traffic? So what we can do on here is we can apply a date filter. So for example, I can find stuff that may not have had a click for a considerable amount of time. So here I'm selecting the end date as December 2024. And if we go all the way back, say to the 1st of Feb 23, we can see all of the queries that haven't generated clicks in the last couple of months. And you can see here, none of these queries have generated clicks this year. Okay. Some of them going back even further to 2023. So this is really useful for being able to filter out queries that might have stopped delivering traffic. And we can do the same with pages as well. So for example, it might be that if we're looking to drill down on stuff that just isn't, contributing anything, what I could do is just remove our clicks filter. And then what we can do is just leave this filter here. So all of these URLs have not generated clicks this year. So you could even go back further. But the benefit to doing this is that it just makes it much easier to very quickly dump out and export all of the data that you can then say, okay, well, these are potentially dead URLs. So again, you can export, select max, and run that export. And then when you look at the export, you'll be able to see all of the query data that's in that. So next, moving on, we also show HTTP status. Now, this is just updating today. If we remove our date filter. So this runs on a cron, so it will populate daily. At the moment, this is just in the middle of an update, but we do show HTTP status on the URLs. Now, the next thing is that when we're looking at data, when we're looking at everything, what's important to know is that this is also a data warehouse. So if you remember, the earliest that we can see back is to the 23rd of November, 2023. So because we can see back to the first data point, if we now go from the first data point to where GSC starts, which is the 23rd of November, 2023, and this data here that you're about to see, this data is all gone from Search Console. So this here would be gone forever. You can't see it here. And the benefit is that we've stored every single bit of data. So we can see there's 17,000 queries, and you can interact with this. So I can click on any of these queries. I can click on any of these pages, and I can look at the data, even though this would long have gone from GSC. So if I now click on this, and then it will draw the performance line for this URL for that time frame that is missing. And then we can click back on queries, and we can see every single query that was associated with that URL, along with all of the data. And again, we can click on these and interact with it. So it's super granular. So SEO Stack fundamentally allows you to store data, warehouse your data, access everything. It takes away all of the limitations, and it provides you with the ability to integrate your project management and task management. The other thing that we can do as well is that we can select Google Updates. So we can select core updates, helpful content, link spam, AIOs, rollouts, and we can take a look at specific updates. We can click on them, and then it will give us an overview of that update. So this is the primary interface of SEO Stack. We fundamentally have recreated the core part of GSE and have just taken away all of the limitations that are associated with it and started to work to just make it more intuitive. So annotations, for example, are a great way to really understand what's actually happening with a site, what's happening as a result of the work that you do. So you can see here, going back, we can see, and fundamentally these annotations are connected to the task management. So the task management basically allows you to have a fully fledged project management system where you can basically log tasks and then attribute these tasks to annotations. Thank you for watching. My name is Daniel Foley Carter. If you have any questions, do feel free to reach out.